Have you ever taken a moment to reflect on the significance of being chosen by God? That quiet pull in your heart that urges you toward a higher purpose, even if you don't entirely understand why you've been singled out. Throughout history, people from many backgrounds and spiritual beliefs have grappled with the concept of divine selection. They've wondered if God's choice was fixed from our first breath, or if it reveals itself gradually through life's many twists and turns. This question has captured the curiosity of mystics, religious scholars, and regular individuals for centuries because it speaks to our personal sense of mission and highlights the unseen spiritual forces that shape our everyday existence. Some people sense this calling as a faint whisper, so subtle they almost doubt it's real. Others wake up one day with a jolting clarity, so strong they can't ignore it. However it comes, the invitation to walk a path marked out just for your soul can be both exhilarating and frightening. You may wonder if you're worthy of such a sacred role, or whether you can match the lofty visions that stir in your mind. But if you look more deeply, you'll realize that being set apart by God isn't about gathering more achievements than everyone else or chasing a flawless ideal. It rests on being open, on choosing to align your heart, your choices, and your whole self with a greater plan. Meister Eckhart, a Christian mystic, once remarked, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me," suggesting a profound unity between the human soul and the divine. This thought hints that each person holds a unique bond with God, something woven into our essence that blossoms the moment we decide to nurture that connection. Embracing this idea, you begin to see that God's choice isn't random or based on dazzling skills. It has nothing to do with being the smartest or the most magnetic personality. Instead, it's about sensing how your inner life is in sync with the holy patterns God set in motion for all humankind. When you start feeling this rhythm, life begins to seem like a path lined with signals, sometimes quiet, sometimes spectacular, that pull you closer to understanding why you felt awakened in the first place. Perhaps you see surprising coincidences that seem to stretch beyond mere chance, meeting exactly the right people at just the right moment, or stumbling upon a resource exactly when you're ready. Over time, these signs become a hidden language, God's way of reminding you to keep your eyes open and your heart available. At first, God's call might surface as a mild, repeated nudge. It might show up during major milestones, perhaps after a great success that still leaves an odd emptiness, or in a season of hardship, when sorrow makes you yearn for comfort and truth that can't be found in material gains. This longing can appear in all sorts of ways. Maybe you're an artist, suddenly feeling a new wonder in your creative flow. Maybe you're a parent realizing that nurturing your children's souls is just as important as meeting their everyday needs. Others may find themselves pulled toward spiritual teachings, philosophy, or cosmic mysteries, sparked by an endless craving for meaning. These sparks may seem random at first, like scattered puzzle pieces. But keep noticing them, and you'll start to see an underlying order, one that directs you toward a sacred path hidden beneath your daily routines. Truly responding to God's call often requires bravery. You might be led to stray from the old patterns of your life. You might face the need to push back against family assumptions, social standards, or your own fears about whether you deserve a higher calling. But for those who can't ignore the feeling that God is summoning them, the real pilgrimage starts the moment they say yes. The Spirit's whisper, barely recognizable at first, soon becomes a steady tune behind everything you do. In opening yourself to this call, you may witness a remarkable shift. As you act in faith, life's details often click into place, mentors emerge, and divine grace trickles through small but powerful blessings. That doesn't mean the path is smooth. Challenges remain, but these instances of spiritual encouragement keep you moving forward. A vital part of this journey is letting go of old baggage that weighs down your heart. Over time, our inner life can accumulate hurt from past trauma, loss, and mistaken ideas about who we are. It's like trying to set sail while an anchor is embedded in the ocean floor. You long to move on, yet something buried holds you back. Releasing these deep burdens is rarely effortless. It can be like turning your world upside down. You may revisit childhood wounds, destructive behavior patterns, or beliefs that restrict your growth. These struggles often act like mirrors, revealing exactly where your soul is ready to be healed. During this cleansing stage, you start paying closer attention to your internal monologue, the quiet stories you tell yourself. Are you driven by fear instead of trusting God? Does pride overshadow your humility? Though this self-awareness can rattle you, it also opens a gateway to genuine change. Every challenge that arises is a chance to practice a more loving response. As you progress, you'll occasionally experience bursts of clarity, moments of calm or fresh insights indicating that something has shifted inside. The less you cling to mental and emotional burdens, the more room you make for new blessings to emerge, like unlocking wells of skill or intuition buried beneath layers of doubt. A striking outcome of living in sync with God's design is that hidden strengths may awaken in you. Maybe you discover a healing warmth in your presence that eases other people's pain. Or you might realize you have a gift for expressing spiritual truths that resonate deeply with others. These talents usually don't appear with dramatic fanfare. They unfold little by little, encouraged by your deepening devotion. In the early stages, you might question whether these strengths are genuine or just wishful thinking. But over time, with sincere effort and prayerful discernment, signs appear that confirm the real power of what God has planted in you. Still, this is not about collecting gifts to show off. The true mark of spiritual gifts lies in how modestly and compassionately you use them to benefit others. Those marked by God aren't meant to hoard these blessings. They're invited to channel divine love into the world. That's why honest self-evaluation and accountability are so important. If you sense your ego craving admiration or prestige, pause and realign. The Spirit doesn't grant these gifts for self-importance, but to serve God's wider plan for humanity. Even if you're convinced God has shaped a special path for you, the reality of free will remains. If our futures are scripted by a higher authority, do we have any choice at all? Or can we steer our spiritual path ourselves? The truth is that the chosen path involves a dance between divine guidance and personal freedom. Yes, you may feel a strong destiny to heal, to teach, to lead, or to be creative, but the way you respond each day affects whether or not that destiny takes root. Free will can either help you move forward or hold you in place, as personal pride and self-doubt can blur your vision. Discernment acts like a compass, helping you decide in harmony with the divine pull. Sometimes discernment shows up as subtle gut reactions or meaningful dreams. Other times, it comes through trusted friends or mentors who speak timely wisdom. It's up to you to sift these signals and act accordingly. Free will also means taking ownership of your choices. Every decision contributes to either reinforcing your soul's plan or pouring energy into fruitless pursuits. This can be a sobering realization. You're not just a bystander in life. You co-author your path with God. And as you learn to align your free will with God's plan, you start noticing a glow around even ordinary circumstances. Problems ease up, new opportunities appear, and uplifting connections form. By contrast, ignoring divine nudges often leads to more confusion and obstacles. It might feel like the helping hand from above has disappeared, although it's usually our own resistance that blocks God's presence. Honoring free will as a sacred privilege nurtures the understanding that each choice counts. You're neither a puppet on cosmic strings nor a lone soul wandering without help. Instead, you and God work side by side, shaping your future and deepening your character through a shared dance of creation. If there's one sign that truly marks a life set apart by God, it's the shift from focusing on yourself to focusing on serving others. Answering the call isn't just about uncovering spiritual knowledge or fine-tuning your gifts for personal benefit. Real joy ignites when you pour what you've learned into serving the people around you, your family, your neighborhood, or even broader circles. This desire to serve doesn't arise from duty. It grows from an inner gratitude sparked by experiencing God's love. Once you've felt that love, you can't help wanting to share it. Offering help becomes like a prayer in action, tearing down the invisible walls that keep you apart from others. Sometimes, simply being fully present is the highest form of service. You practice listening without judging, holding space for people's pain, and bringing a calm outlook to situations in disarray. As your bond with God deepens, people can sense it, like you're carrying a comforting light in a world dimmed by fear and stress. Interestingly, the more you give from an honest, loving place, the more you're refilled. It's a reminder that God's love has no limit. Each act of compassion peels away layers of self-centeredness, opening even deeper channels for caring. As you do so, you open doors to profound experiences of the Spirit. Also, serving others offers a real proving ground for the gifts you feel stirring in you. If you sense a call to be a healer or a guide, your growth intensifies when you engage face-to-face with those who need exactly what you have to give. Reading about it is helpful, but real expansion happens when genuine human connection and real needs meet. You may surprise yourself with the insights that arise in these moments, realizations that you couldn't have reached on your own. Serving others can also highlight your own blind spots, pushing you to reflect more deeply. It's a sacred exchange in which everyone involved discovers something new about God's grace. One of the uplifting parts of traveling this God-focused road is encountering what many describe as synchronicities, moments so coincidental they seem orchestrated from above. Maybe you're struggling with a question and someone's casual remark gives you the exact answer you've been searching for. Or you feel a sudden need to call a friend, only to find out they desperately needed a caring voice at that moment. While some might dismiss these instances as luck, those who witness them repeatedly begin to see the outline of a divine hand in their day-to-day lives. Sometimes these events feel like a joyful surge. Everything seems to click, your creativity flourishes, conversations flow, and your heart feels carried by grace. Other chapters are tougher, marked by closed doors or ongoing confusion. Yet even those times often reveal themselves as part of a bigger pattern. Occasionally, divine timing demands stillness or a reset of your motives before the next door swings open. Embracing this cyclical flow helps lessen frustration, teaching you that progress isn't always about external momentum. Significant shifts can happen within you, preparing you for a door you can't yet see. In these rhythms, recall that your journey is collaborative. God sends signs, insights, and chances, but you must do your part. By remaining alert to these gentle prompts, you open yourself to the richness of life, noticing blessings you might otherwise overlook. This mindfulness deepens your trust, reassuring you time and again that God's compassionate hand is woven into the fabric of creation. Witnessing these patterns repeatedly dissolves doubt, replacing it with a humble assurance that God is truly co-creating your story with you. Some assume that once they say yes to God's call, their lives will flow without struggle. Although certain obstacles do diminish, growing spiritually is hardly a neat, straight climb. It's more like an upward spiral where you revisit the same core lessons from new angles. You might think you've conquered jealousy, only to face it again later in a more subtle form. Or you might reach a kinder perspective, only to encounter a situation that tests your ability to forgive in new ways. This repetition can be disheartening. Didn't you resolve this already? But each turn of the spiral imparts new depth of insight. When you find yourself frustrated by recurring challenges, remember, you're not the person you were before. Even if the problem looks the same, you've grown in your ability to approach it through God's love. These repeated tests polish your character, peel away illusions, and grow your compassion. You learn to recognize emotional triggers in yourself and in others, letting you love with more completeness. These loops also teach profound humility, reminding you that spiritual awakening is a lifelong journey, not a quick or one-time event. Along this path, kindred spirits often emerge. Some will walk with you briefly, sharing a meaningful tip or a supportive hand just when you need it. Others stay longer, serving as companions who encourage you while you both evolve. Such friendships act like mirrors, showing you how far you've come, highlighting any lingering issues or modeling qualities you aspire to develop. Through them, you glimpse the reality that while each person's connection to God is personal, we all share basic hopes to love, to heal, and to find purpose. Nonetheless, there will be periods of loneliness. You might feel misunderstood or set apart if people around you don't share your newfound shifts. In such times, leaning more heavily on your bond with God becomes your anchor. It's natural to crave outside affirmation, but depending too much on others' approval can weaken your trust in your own God-given instincts. These quiet seasons, though painful, invite a deeper reliance on the Holy Spirit. They remind you that God is ever present, ready to guide you when you take the time to listen. As you move forward, reflect on what fuels your quest for God. Are you after dramatic spiritual experiences, or do you honestly yearn to live out divine love? Superficial motives will eventually fade, leaving behind a sincere drive that puts love and service ahead of personal triumphs. This humility and honesty often become the steady force that keeps you rooted in what really counts, stopping you from being swept away by the emotional ups and downs you'll inevitably encounter. Although some spiritual paths use enlightenment to describe reaching the end of the journey, you might find comfort in viewing it as a continuous, growing closeness to God. It might not strike like a bolt of lightning. Instead, it often unfolds as a gentle but unbreakable awareness that you are never cut off from the source that breathes life into everything. You may find yourself doing everyday tasks with a renewed sense of significance. Even the most routine chores can shimmer with an unseen holiness when done in the awareness that God is right there with you. That doesn't mean you'll never experience pain or struggle. Difficulties will still arise, and your heart will still ache over injustice or grief. But your perspective broadens. Trials become part of a greater mosaic, offering opportunities for your soul to grow. Challenges that once seemed random can take on new meaning as catalysts for empathy or chances to surrender more fully. Rather than feeling like a helpless victim, you come to see yourself as a partner in a grand design, learning new steps in a dance that adapts with every heartbeat. As you settle more into God's presence, your relationships with others also change. You find yourself speaking with more kindness, and your intentions become clearer. People notice a comforting energy about those who remain close to God, like a soothing lantern in a dark night. Little actions, offering a kind word to a stranger or showing calmness in a tense situation, glow with a stronger spiritual purpose. It's as though every move is lit from the inside by a steady current of divine mercy. Still, this union with God isn't fixed. It's an ongoing voyage. Periods of sweet communion can quickly turn into dry spells or annoyance, encouraging you to refine your trust in God and deepen your commitment. These ups and downs keep you from settling into complacency. Each shift is an invitation to grow your capacity for understanding, stepping further into the undiscovered corners of your soul. If you stay receptive, your link with God reveals itself as a boundless well, one you return to endlessly, finding fresh layers of insight and joy. Paradoxically, drawing nearer to God often makes you more aware of the pain in the world. Stories of suffering or personal meetings with people's grief can cut deeper than before. You won't sit removed in a bubble of peace. Instead, you may find your compassion awakened by global crises, environmental destruction, or a neighbor's quiet despair. This heightened sensitivity can be both a gift and a weight. It feeds your empathy, yet can also wear you out if you don't nurture your own well-being. That's why personal boundaries and self-care are so crucial. Though you're called to shine your light, you're not expected to solve every hardship by yourself. Embracing your human limits is a significant piece of spiritual maturity. It allows you to act out of love rather than guilt, offering meaningful help where you're best suited. Periodic retreats into prayer, meditation, or solitude revitalize your spirit. Think of a candle needing shelter from strong gusts. Your inner flame requires moments of rest and replenishment if it's going to keep burning. Even the most devoted person needs these intervals to function effectively, and modeling such balance can help those around you do the same. On this road, you may also have to confront perfectionism or the assumption that chosen people never slip up. Yet admitting vulnerability and embracing humility are key strengths for anyone entrusted by God. Knowing when to reach out for help, whether spiritual, emotional, or practical, keeps you genuine. A candle can't burn indefinitely without refueling. By respecting your own humanity, you become a clearer channel for God's infinite power. Look around, and you'll notice a world longing for the stable presence of those who've accepted God's invitation. The constant noise of division, hostility, and fear is unrelenting. So many hearts are searching for something real, something grounded in kindness and unity. This is where God's chosen, those who have done the tough inner work to align with divine love, can make a real difference. Titles or official roles matter much less than the genuineness you bring. Essentially, you act as God's ambassador wherever you are, whether it's the checkout line at the grocery store, a corporate office, or the family dinner table. Your effect stems less from reciting doctrines and more from living them, showing patience when no one else does, offering grace where resentment is common, or forgiving even when it's unexpected. Rather than pushing people to adopt your beliefs, you radiate a calm assurance rooted in an unshakable source. Over time, people notice there's something steady about you. Your words support rather than criticize. Your behavior seems guided by a higher principle. In seeing this, they may catch a glimpse of God's reality in their own midst. Such a transformation can arise on many levels. In some instances, entire communities can change when they see someone modeling kindness and collaboration. Bonds form where there was discord, and even small acts of goodwill can spread quickly. But even if your circle is small, your presence can carry a profound impact. A heartfelt chat with a neighbor in crisis, a thoughtful note left for a discouraged colleague, or a gentle challenge to a loved one's destructive habits can plant seeds that flourish in astonishing and far-reaching ways. You may never see the full result, but God's plan expands beyond our limited viewpoint. As you walk this path, stay open to the possibility that God's purpose for you might be far bigger than your own plans. Divine guidance could lead you to switch careers, move to a new locale, or invest your time in a ministry you never expected. You might also find that your current setting becomes the ideal place for spiritual growth once your perspective changes. Staying flexible and humble lets you learn from unexpected sources, a small child's sense of wonder, an elder's deep wisdom, or even a difficult person who reveals areas of your psyche that still need healing. Yes, you'll cross paths with people and opinions that clash with yours, but remember that beneath those differences lie fears, hurts, and longings not too different from your own. Seeing our common humanity doesn't mean giving up your principles. It means choosing empathy before judging. Often, real connection happens in the shared space where two imperfect souls realize that love, not having the same viewpoints, is the bond that truly joins us. This realization can spark a deeper kind of service, one that cuts across cultural or ideological barriers and touches the universal language of compassion. In the end, maintaining a sense of awe keeps you alive to the ever-present wonder of God. If you view yourself as a lifelong student, you stay open to moving revelations that can spring from mundane moments. This openness cultivates resilience when life takes unexpected turns, be it a sudden job change or a health concern. You start to see life not as a straight race toward one finish line, but as a limitless journey where each stage uncovers new aspects of your relationship with God. A spirit of curiosity wards off stagnation, fueling a creative approach to prayer, service, and simple day-to-day living. Imagine, for just a moment, if every person who felt God's touch tended that spark wholeheartedly. The ripple effect would be awe-inspiring. We might see more empathy that transcends national, cultural, and religious boundaries. We might witness innovative leadership centered on unity instead of division, on solutions rather than blame. And it wouldn't need grand proclamations. Often, it's humble acts of compassion that gradually knit people together, a genuine ear for someone who feels ignored, or a helping hand in a neighbor's moment of crisis. These small gestures can slowly shift the prevailing atmosphere. Even more remarkable is how these individual awakenings intertwine into a shared tapestry of renewal. Whenever someone chooses love over fear, that decision spreads outward, influencing relatives, friends, and co-workers. Bit by bit, these actions can spark a chain reaction of hope, one gentle step after another. None of us can handle the world's troubles alone, but we can each carry the piece of the divine plan given to us, trusting that God weaves every sincere act of service, no matter how humble, into a larger masterpiece. Ultimately, you are invited to see that your life is a meaningful thread in this enormous tapestry. If you dare to say yes to the call, whether it arrives as a whisper within, a string of coincidences, or a strong confirmation in prayer, you add your distinct hue to the broader design. And by living your role with honesty, you encourage others to do the same. This synergy is inspiring. As more hearts turn toward God, more souls awaken, and more hands become active conduits of grace. It's worth noting there is no tidy conclusion to the experience of being chosen by God. Rather than a finish line, there's a horizon stretching out, beckoning you to keep going. Perhaps the deepest truth is that this quest never truly ends. Every sunrise offers new lessons, new expressions of love, and new ways for God to ask you to show up and shine. It's a process of discovering both the majesty of the Creator and the depth of your own ability to reflect that divine splendor. On this evolving quest, always remember you're never by yourself. Even in dark or confusing times, there's a compassionate presence holding you. You're joined by countless other seekers, some you meet personally, others who came before and left their wisdom through sacred writings or personal testimonies. And of course, there is the Spirit of God always near, waiting for you to reach out in prayer or contemplation. When trials come, or you doubt you can keep going, remember that spiritual support is as close as a calm breath or an honest cry of the heart. Maintain room for wonder. Look at a sunrise or a blooming flower, and let these daily marvels remind you that creation is bathed in divine fingerprints. Each detail whispers an invitation to renew your sense of awe, to feel the unspoken dialogue between God and your soul. In this receptive state, real change is born. When your heart remains open, you become flexible, ready to follow the Spirit's guidance instead of clinging tightly to your own limited plans. Trust is key in a life directed by God. Even if you can't see the entire map, you can move forward one step at a time, confident that the path will reveal itself as you walk. This calls for releasing the illusion of total control. Instead, you learn to lean on God's higher wisdom, which always has your well-being at heart, even if it goes against what your mind insists is best. By letting go of your need for complete certainty, you allow grace to emerge in amazing and unpredictable ways. Doubts may still arise, but they can be stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. When you leave space for honest questions, you also leave room for God to respond in unexpected forms. As time goes by, you get better at sensing the flavor of God's guidance. Little confirmations in your circumstances, a calm push in your heart, or a deeper knowing that resonates beyond plain logic. And the more you recognize God's work in your life, the less you fear the unknown. You learn that walking forward in faith is safer than standing still in your comfort zone, without divine direction. For many, the greatest reward of living as one chosen by God is the legacy they bequeath to the generations that follow. It's not about monuments or accolades, but about the mark of faith, compassion, and love that shapes those within your sphere. Whether you're called to preach to multitudes, nurture children who spread kindness in the world, or craft art that stirs sleeping hearts, what truly counts are the seeds of divine love you sow. You might never see these seeds bloom in your lifetime, but your hope in planting them is part of honoring a broader design. Think of parents who embody godly qualities for their children, raising them to become caring adults who bless their communities. Or teachers whose steady encouragement lights a fire in students to follow their own unique call. Or reflect on small acts of empathy, visiting someone who's ill or providing for someone in need that can profoundly shift how people see their lives. Each gesture of love, magnified by the Spirit, can ripple out far beyond the moment, weaving a chain of goodness that continues long after we're gone. Ultimately, the question, why did God pick you to be the chosen one, points back to a simple but powerful answer: because God loves you and recognizes your special potential. It doesn't depend on your resume of achievements or your level of perfection. Divine love seeks hearts ready to receive it, and yours, if open, becomes that channel. God's choice reflects both your willingness to respond and a bigger story of humanity's spiritual growth. You're chosen not for self-glory, but to demonstrate God's goodness in a world that deeply needs hope. This realization often changes how you define success. Instead of the usual measures, income, rank, social clout, it becomes about how faithfully you answer God's nudges. It's about the quality of your relationships, the honesty in your service, and the serenity that settles inside you. This new outlook might clash with the usual cultural ideals, but it holds a freeing truth. Living in alignment with God might be the most satisfying life you can experience. So here you stand, faced with an offer, a road not taken, and a spark in your soul that can't be put out. You may not know exactly where it leads or what life will look like in a few years. But you do know that something deep within has awakened, and you can't simply ignore it. Each choice you make in response to this call lets God's creative force work through you. And as you move on, you'll meet fellow travelers, people who will share in your joys, ease your burdens, and challenge you to mature in faith and love. In the seasons and years ahead, let curiosity be your guide. Let service shape your heart. Let humility anchor you to the God who chose you. Each new day gives you the chance to say yes in practical but meaningful ways. Maybe you offer a prayer for those who are hurting, volunteer for a cause that stirs your spirit, or do a small kindness that lifts someone else's day. Little by little, these small actions add up, weaving a life that resonates with divine grace. And remember, you never walk this path alone. God's steady hand supports you. Unseen helpers may come in many forms, and the silent prayers of others who've also felt the call form a hidden chorus that travels with you. In the end, it's more fulfilling to stand in awe of the sacred mystery than to look for a neat conclusion. If there's one final insight, it's that this journey has no definitive end, only expanding horizons, urging you onward into the unknown, trusting that God's guidance remains sure. You carry a spark of holy potential that brightens with every surrender, every choice to love, every heartfelt prayer. Each day is a chance to draw nearer to God's heart. When you embrace that, you find that every tree, every gentle remark, every breath is charged with a cosmic significance that ties your life to something immensely larger than yourself. So continue onward. Keep tending the quiet nudges, staying attentive to the clues God places along your path, and remember you're part of a grander account written by love itself. In a world so often overshadowed by division, your decision to live out your calling is a sacred offering, a glowing strand in the vast tapestry God has been weaving throughout the ages. Keep pressing forward, keep trusting, keep hoping. In doing so, you fulfill a purpose no one else can fill, shining light into darkness and bearing witness to the wonder of what it means to be chosen by God.